Hi everyone, it's Ines, and welcome back to Voyage of a Time Wanderer. Today I'm going to be doing the mid-year book Freakout tag. I know it's been quite a while since I posted any videos to this booktube channel, probably I think about 2.5 years now, but I haven't stopped reading and I haven't stopped enjoying watching booktube videos. Life just got pretty busy for the last little while. But like most people, I have a little bit more time at home on my hands right now, and so I thought, why not get back into the swing of things and film a couple videos. As far as I can tell, this tag originated a number of years ago now by Ellie at Earl Grey Books and Chammy, whose links I'll leave down below. And there are 13 questions discussing what I've read so far in 2020. So in the first half of 2020, I read 46 books, which is pretty good for me. I've been averaging around 50 to 60 books a year the last few years, so I'm definitely on an above average trajectory right now. Most of my books I either get out of the library or read as ebooks from the library, so I don't have very many physical copies to hold up, but I will do my best. So question 1, what is the best book that you've read so far in 2020? So for this question I'm going to split it into fiction and nonfiction because I have read some pretty excellent books in both categories and it would be hard to choose. For nonfiction, my favorite book so far is The Lives of Jack the Ripper's Women by Hailee Rubenhold, which was an absolutely incredible biography of each of the 5 canonical victims of Jack the Ripper. And it looked at the lives of these women from their childhood up until their tragic deaths and kind of examined the socio-cultural factors that led to them being vulnerable. As someone who enjoys doing genealogy research, I was so impressed by the amount of effort that I could tell that this author had put into researching through the different records to piece together the information about these women's lives. It was a very powerful read. For fiction, my favorite book was Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. This book I read at the end of January, right at the beginning of news coming out about the coronavirus pandemic, and at the time I thought it was a very timely read, and it has only gotten more timely since then. Definitely has stuck with me and is a book that I find myself continuing to think about on an almost daily basis. So question number 2 is, what is the best sequel that you've read so far in 2020? I tend to not read a lot of series, but right now I'm working my way through a mystery series. So I would say that the best sequel that I've read so far in 2020 is Journey to Munich by Jacqueline Winspear, which is the 12th book in the Maisie Dobbs series of cozy mysteries set in the interwar period in Britain. In this book, she's recruited by British intelligence to go to Munich in, I believe, 1937 or 38, so right before the Second World War, but at a time when Hitler had already come to power and was already making sweeping changes across Germany. Although there are many books set in World War II, I haven't read many books set in that period right before World War II, but when you could tell that things were leading in that direction, I guess. So I found it very interesting seeing what society was looking like in Germany right before the war, and how small legislative changes were already taking place that would lay the groundwork for some of his more horrific legislation during the Second World War. Question number 3 is a new release that you're excited about but haven't read yet. I've got a number of these. Because I read most of my books from the library, I'm usually a few months behind the release cycle just because I'm waiting for the books to come in that my library has ordered. So all 3 of these books I'm actually on the hold waitlist for at my library, and I'm just waiting for them to arrive and for my position to get up to the top. The Jane Austen Society by Natalie Jenner, The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel, and The Mercies by Kiran Millwood Hargrave are all books that I'm very excited to read that were released earlier this year. Question number 4 is, what is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? I have 2 that I'm really excited about. One's fiction, one's nonfiction again. So for nonfiction, I'm anxiously awaiting Rag and Bone by Lisa Woolett, which promises to be a look into the author's family members who made their living off of garbage or scrap collection rag and bone shops in Victorian London and throughout the UK, kind of in that time period. So I'm really excited about this for a number of reasons. two of the most recent Dickens books that I've read, Bleak House and Our Mutual Friend, have both had a number of characters in it that are kind of involved in this garbage trash collection professions. And I've actually found my own ancestor who was living in Newcastle in the Victorian period, who was a marine store dealer, who is basically someone who collected scraps from rag and bone merchants into a store and is the same profession as Mr. Crook in Bleak House. So I'm very intrigued to see what kind of nonfiction details she's going to give about those professions in rag and bone, because they're not necessarily glamorous, but it's certainly interesting. For fiction, I'm very excited that Gyasi is releasing her second book, Transcendent Kingdom, in September, which I'm really looking forward to. Her debut novel, Homegoing, was absolutely incredible and one of my favorite reads of 2017. And Transcendent Kingdom follows a Ghanaian immigrant family living in the United States and is promising to explore the intersection of religion and science, addiction, grief, depression, faith, and family, which sounds like I will really enjoy it. And if her writing in Homegoing is anything to go off of, her second novel is also going to be incredible. The fifth question is, what is your biggest disappointment of 2020? And for me, that is definitely The Gown by Jennifer Robson. This was particularly disappointing because I feel like I'm pretty much exactly the perfect target audience. I'm a monarchist who loves royal watching and getting up early to watch a royal wedding. I love historical fiction. I'm a genealogist who can't resist a good cross-generational, multi-generational novel. I like doing embroidery and cross-stitch and knitting and learning about historical dressmaking techniques. So this book really should have been a favorite, or I thought it was going to be a favorite. I'd put off reading it for a long time because I wanted to be in the right headspace to really savor it. And then it turned out to be such a letdown that I hardly wanted to finish it. So that was pretty disappointing. Question number 6 is, what is your biggest surprise? I would say that is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. I had heard hype about this book for years, but I had never chosen to pick it up because I'm not a fan of that kind of dystopian, end-of-world style fiction. So it took numerous people that I trust recommending it to me to get me to finally pick it up, and then obviously it's one of my favorite books that I've read so far this year. Question number 7, who is a favorite new author, either debut or new to you? I would say I have 2 answers for this one too. I read my first George Gissing novel as part of Katie from Books and Things read-along in May of The Odd Women, and I really enjoyed that. And I was very impressed with his writing style, the way he wrote female characters, depth of the issues that he touched on in that novel, so I'm very excited to read more Gissing in the future. And then for a debut author, I read Candice Carty-Williams' Queenie this year, which was published in 2019, but I didn't get to it until this year. And I very much enjoyed that, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else she's going to be writing in the future. I see on Goodreads that she's got a book slated for publication in 2021, so I'm excited for that. Question number 8, your newest fictional crush. I would say I don't usually get crushes on fictional characters, but I did very much enjoy the romance with William Stafford in The Other Boleyn Girl by Phillipa Gregory. The way he pursued her and romanced her despite the challenges in their path was very precious. And who doesn't want a man who buys a little farm for you and the two of you escape all the intrigue of Tudor court and just live on a farm, making cheese and knitting together in the evenings by the fire. Like, that's pretty perfect. Question number 9 is, who's your newest favorite character? And I kind of have a cheat answer for that, and I'm going to say Meg from Little Women. Please excuse this absolutely horrific cover that my Little Women edition has. I got it for free in a free book pile at work, and it's pretty non-historically accurate to the time period, but like many people, I reread Little Women in advance of watching the new film adaptation, and this was a book that I had read a few times in my childhood and then probably hadn't read in, I don't know, maybe 15 years. And when I was younger, I remember really liking Jo and feeling like she was my favorite character, and this time when I read it, I just really appreciated Meg's character anew. So even though this wasn't a new read for me, Meg is definitely a new favorite character for me from Little Women. Question number 10. What is a book that made you cry? I don't think I've cried at a book this year, but I don't usually cry when reading. I definitely had a pit in my stomach when reading a lot of the entries in Anne Frank's diary, especially as it got closer to the end, where I knew that very soon they would be captured, and reading about Anne's dreams for freedom at the end of the war is very heartbreaking when you know already how her story ends. I also had a few moments in Bleak House that were pretty devastating, particularly a scene at the end that I didn't see coming at all. And I had to pause my audiobook and just scream no a few times into the void to try to cope with the emotions of that tragic scene. Question number 11, a book that made you happy. For this, I would say A Princess in Theory by Alyssa Cole, which was a really sweet and fun romance set partially in a futuristic African country that is clearly based on Lesotho. It is just a really fun romance novel. I think it was the first time I've really read a book marketed as a romance novel. It definitely made me smile, made me happy. It was just a really sweet story of two people falling in love. Question number 12 is, what is the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received? Again, as I said, I don't buy very many books. I mostly read from my library, so I think I've only received one physical copy of a book so far this year, and luckily it has a gorgeous cover. So this is Confessions of Fox by Rosenberg, which I don't know a ton about except that it's set in 18th century London and deals with gender issues and the criminal underworld, and it sounds very intriguing. I actually won this in a giveaway hosted by Historian in honor of the launch of her Instagram book club, The History Bookshelf, which I will link down below. She alternates reading a historical fiction and a historical nonfiction title each month, and then has questions and Instagram lives discussing it. So yeah, a beautiful cover that I'm looking forward to reading. It's got stars. Question number 13 is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? So my main goal right now that I'm working on is reading through the Maisie Dobbs series, which I only have one left now, and Phillipa Gregory's Plantagenet Tudor series, which I'm also almost finished. So those are my two main reading goals for the year. I'm also continuing to work on my Reading Africa challenge, and I'm hoping to get to Nervous Conditions by Tsitsi Dangarembga and She Would Be King by Wayatu Moore, to cross off 2 more new countries, Zimbabwe and Liberia, for a total of 5 new countries this year. My Reading Africa challenge, I'm trying to read a book, either set in or by an author from each country in Africa. I'm actually a huge nerd, and I have a note on my phone with my TBR planned out for each month that I did back in December 2019 when I was thinking about what I wanted to read this year. So I actually have a pretty good idea of what I'm going to be reading between now and the end of December. A few of the other titles I'm hoping to get to this year include A Column of Fire by Ken Follett, to finish off his The Pillars of the Earth trilogy, Woolett by Charlotte Bronte, Gunner's Daughter by Sigrid Undset, I Captured the Castle by Dodie Smith, and the My Brilliant Friend trilogy. And I've got a whole lot more on my TBR for the end of the year, but those are a few that I'm hoping to prioritize. Anyway, thanks for watching my mid-year book freakout tag, and until next time, enjoy wandering through the pages of a good book. Bye.